What is BeReal? BeReal is this like social media app where you can friend people, and every day at a random time, BeReal will send a notification and be like, post. These are all the BeReals that I took my sophomore spring semester of college. Starting off, this was at a Tiger Lunch regional. Tiger Lunch is the world's largest student-run entrepreneurship competition, and this year I was directing it. We had 5 regional competitions in total, but this was one of the first regionals after school resumed for the spring semester, and Nika, my friend, finally convinced me to download BeReal, February 21st. STC 209 was my least favorite class this year by far. I took this BeReal on a day that we were making like plaster molds, and it was part of like the structural engineering unit, and it was okay. On February 22nd, this is a BeReal of my computer graphics class, which was I think one of the more interesting / second favorite class of the year. The material was cool, even though I couldn't really understand all of it, and then I stopped going to class after midterms. February 25th is a 888 dance company rehearsal. They had their show in the spring, and I was in 3 pieces and helped choreograph a little bit. On the first day of March, Harvey and I became BeReal official, as in I posted him on my BeReal in class, and he posted me on his BeReal in class. And then Princeton had a free food event, so we went, and I also saw a raccoon that night. On March 4th, this was like the last day before spring break started, so all my friends left me, and by all, I mean 2, and I was like emo and kind of sad. So I went along Nassau Street, which is like the main street with lots of shops down Princeton's campus, so I bought a random assortment of things trying to make myself feel better. But the reason why I didn't go home for spring break was because 888's show was the next week, so they were going to have like boot camp and stuff, and I didn't think it was worth to like go home for 3 days and then come back, but looking back, I should have went home instead of staying in my bed every day. On the next day, actually, my mom and dog visited, and I'm very grateful she came to visit, even though I never told her that. Then on March 7th, Belinda visited, and even though I had a midterm, I sped through it and turned it in early and then bombed it. But turning it in early meant that Belinda and I could go to New York on the last day that she was here, so it was worth it. Now it's March 12th, and I've been lying in bed doing nothing, but on that day, I went to the art studio to work on a print. After that, 888's boot camp Hell Week officially started, spring break ended, and classes resumed. The next week was kind of crazy, as Hell Weeks are. Basically, Hell Weeks are like a week of preparation leading up to the shows, which are probably like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And dance groups will just run over their pieces again and again and again every day to really perfect them. Hell Week came and went, and then the shows came and went, and it was finally our last show.
Oh! We just sold out our shows.
I'm very thankful to all my friends who came and watched and bought tickets and allowed us to sell out our shows, with a special shout out to Jessica and the boyfriend who keeps making these like cardboard signs with random words on them. Life was chill for a little bit, and then on March 24th, I also decorated an umbrella for Harvey.
This side. Oh, fuck, it's back.
The next day on March 25th, I went to prom, finally. The day after that, March 26th, I went to Chuck E. Cheese in New York, but was not allowed to choose these pink wings for my prize, and I've been thinking about them every time I scroll past them in my camera roll. As the end of March approached, it meant that we were getting closer and closer to Tiger Lunch Finals, aka we're inviting the top 14 teams from all our regionals to come to Princeton, and on my end, that meant buying judges gifts and making these like giant checks that are whiteboard erasable. But amidst the chaos, I still managed to get Chipotle and go to an art gallery event where I stole a bunch of stickers and put them on myself. The first 2 days of April were really fun and really busy, but I also had never woken up like before 9 a.m. the entire spring semester because all my classes before 12 p.m. were able to like be recorded. So that also meant that I was exhausted. And to make it worse, Design Nation, which is the nation's only all expenses paid design conference for undergraduates, was next weekend. So the moment Tiger Lunch Finals ended at 5, I ran to have a Design Nation meeting at 6. And it basically consumed the next week of mine. But on Sunday, April 3rd, my family visited, and I started feeling like shit because there was like another round of like flu, cold going around. So I wasn't able to like receive them properly. And this was like the first time that all 4 members of my family came. Normally it's just my mom and my dog. So I was with them basically like a good 3 or 4 hours. And right after they left, I hit the bed and succumbed to the 24-hour bug. April 6th was last minute prep for Design Nation, and April 8th marked the beginning of the conference, which I have dedicated an entire video towards. At that point, Design Nation was the baby that I have been nurturing for the past 9 months, and seeing all the moving pieces come together those 2 days were really special and probably the easiest birth I will ever give in my life. The post-conference blues took a while to come, so in the meantime, on April 12th, I went to the printmaking studio with Callie, and this week she made like this really cool dragon, and I was able to watercolor it. But that class, we had like a 10-minute break, and we went to get late meal, and then realized there was this whole carnival going on with like funnel cake and snow cones. Skipping a couple more days, on April 20th, I wore Heelys and rode them around the school, and it was great. Blaze it.
So fucking stupid.
I agree.
You're not supposed to say that.
Pose.
Before I knew it, the semester was starting to wind down again, and reading period, which is the week that we have to study before finals, was quickly approaching. So on April 21st, I actually made it to the last class of a couple of my classes. That weekend also had like a lot of parties, so the next day there was formals at my eating club where I still didn't really have any friends to hang out with, so it was a little awkward. And the day after that, Design Nation had a final dinner, and I also watched Everything Everywhere All at Once. The day after that, there was lawn parties where the headliner was Flo Milli. Unfortunately, I could not tell you how the performance was because I just went for the food trucks. The day after, there was a birthday dinner for my friend Crystal, and 2 days after that, I went to New York City to watch Olivia Rodrigo perform in her Sour Tour. The next day, on April 28th, I went home, watched a body hype show, and throughout this entire period, I was coding my computer graphics final project, but I was also like super stressed because I'm really bad at Git, and also I didn't want to slack in my group. 2 days later, I was back in New York for birthday festivities, and all of April was just low-key crazy, from running 2 conferences to going to New York 4 times. It was a lot of like hustle and bustle, but it was also nice and probably my favorite month out of my whole sophomore year. That night I had to hurry back to Princeton to film a dance video, but the birthday boy was on the train, and there was another girl who had these like big bouquet of balloons who was also on the train, and it turns out they both had birthdays that day. How crazy is that? The rest of reading period wasn't that eventful. It was basically me cramming everything that I could learn about finance to not fail my final. But on May 6th, my printmaking class, my favorite class of the entire semester, and I also made a video about it, had our final art crit. And slowly I was realizing that the same people that I would see at the same time every week wasn't permanent. But then I was jolted back into reality as I had 24 hours before my econ final. On the 2 midterms, I had not been doing too hot, so I half forced myself and half was forced to watch all the lecture videos since the beginning of the course, which totaled up to 20 hours of pre-recorded material that I would cram into my head and try to output in the exam. And funny enough, after the exam, I was told that when other people got the answer of 4, I got the answer of like 8,000. The last bits of the semester came out to be my 445 final. I actually didn't talk about this class at all in this video, which is kind of funny, but it is economics and computing, and it was a theory requirement for Princeton computer science, and it was, I think, out of my league, but once I started, I couldn't really back out, even though I bombed that midterm. So I actually worked so hard on the final. For example, I went into the library for the first time the entire sophomore year to take this final. And I didn't go once, I went twice. Basically, for the last 4 days of my semester, all I thought about was this exam. And eventually, all that is bad must come to an end. So I submitted that, packed up my room, and slowly came to terms that this was the last time I'd be living in my res college, and also the style of room that I had grown accustomed to. My sophomore year room was actually one room to the left of my freshman year room, and both of them were like huge layout, single rooms with a big bathroom, and basically like impossible to get. So it was kind of sentimental thinking about all the memories that I had in my rooms and the memories I had my first 2 years of Princeton. This basically wraps up my semester recap, but don't fear, there are summer videos coming. So I will see you there. Goodbye.